Good afternoon, it's Dave at All Important Reviews. Please hit the subscribe button and please hit the like button. This is a comparison review video. We've got the Invicta Pro Diver. This is a quartz model. I'll put the reference number down below. 40mm two-tone with the black, gold and silver. This is the Lige design dive watch. 100-meter water resist, ceramic bezel, two-tone black gold. Obviously these are homages to the Rolex Submariner, and they both have downsides and positives, but I'm going to go through each category of the watch characteristics, and I'm going to tell you which I prefer. So size wise, they are both nominally 40mm. The Invicta on the left is a little bit thinner. The Invicta is about 11, just over 11mm, I believe, whereas the Lige is closer to 13mm. It's about 12.8mm. Now, the original, well, the real Rolex Submariner, I believe, is about 12.7, 12.8mm thick, and the other one, and the model that's just been discontinued by Rolex has what was called a maxi style case, so it had these big fatter lugs. I'm a fan of that version. The Lige have obviously tried to go for a fairly close homage to the Submariner, whereas Invicta have put more of their version on it, if you will. So for sizing, I would give it to the Lige because the size is closer to the watch that it is obviously homaged from, and I personally believe that size and the way that they've done the lugs, the way that they've done the flat maxi case style, if you will, is a better fit, even though you can clearly see it is a lot thicker than the Invicta. The Invicta is very light, and some people may prefer that, but notice how the lugs on the Lige are significantly flatter. I prefer that style. I think it gives balance to the watch on the wrist and it doesn't move around as much. This one has curved lugs. I'm not a big fan of them, I will be honest with you. But I don't know if it is the bracelet being as crap as it is which makes this watch feel not as good, or if it's, so I'm going to swap it out. I've ordered a two-tone watch off bracelet off AliExpress that I'm going to swap it out to a completely solid one. Anyway, for sizing, I'm going to give it to the Lige. However, you could argue that the thinner Invicta is better, but I believe that the Lige is better personally. Okay, so that covers the weight. This is about 150 grams. I would guess this is more closer to like 140, 130 grams because of it's a lot thinner watch. Okay, so let's talk about the crystal and dial. So the crystal on both watches is, I believe, some type of acrylic, like a hard Lex. It is not sapphire. However, the Lige, they state that it is, depending on which supplier you buy it off, they state that it is a sapphire. I can't verify whether it's sapphire or acrylic, basically. But theirs is definitely not sapphire. So I'm going to have to give the winner to Lige, because it is possible in some models, like the one that Perth Watch got, it's another YouTuber, his was sapphire. So I'm going to give that to the Lige. The dial itself for both of them is a black, piano black dial. It's not sunburst, and that's good. I'm not a massive fan of sunburst dials. I think for cleanliness, not cleanliness, how can I describe it? For, clarity, legibility, I'm going to give it to the Lige. There is more detail, you could argue, on the Invicta. They've got the nice Invicta logo, this kind of wing thing. But the indices are smaller on the the Invicta. I don't know why they've chosen it to do it that way. I prefer the indices to be fatter, like on this one. That's just a personal preference. The loom is pretty bad on both. However, the loom on the hands on the Lige is significantly better. The loom on the hands on the Lige is good on the hands, not on the indices, but just on the hands. So at night you can actually see the time fairly okay. On this one, it's just not well applied at all. Bezel, so the Lige does definitely have a ceramic bezel, which is a massive, massive plus. I'm a big fan of ceramic bezels. I think that it's a crime that more watches don't have them. Yes, they can shatter more easily, but they do, as opposed to stainless and aluminium, but they do not, you know, the paint, because obviously it's kind of like it's like a glass metal essentially, and the paint does not come off them as well, because obviously they're not painted in the same way. It's ceramic, it's in the actual material itself, so it is far, far better to have a ceramic bezel. The winner on that, I'll just give you the action. This is the Invicta. Now, the Invicta's bezel is super, super hard to twist. Don't know why it is. Maybe that's some kind of dive reason, I don't know. But if I was diving, I wouldn't want it to be that difficult to set. So that is really, really hard to set. Whereas on the Lige, that is a much, much nicer feel to me personally. But you could argue you could knock it easier and it'd come out of place. But there's a little bit of black play there, as you can clearly see. But I personally far prefer a ceramic bezel. I will never go diving with these watches personally. We'll talk about that later anyway. So I'm going to give the winner, unfortunately, to the Lige. Now, let's talk about bracelets. So the Invicta has solid links. The links are connected with push pins, they're not screw pins, unfortunately. The end links are hollow, crappy end links, and the clasp is a friction fold over deployant made out of crappy, very thin gauge metal. It's not even a millimetre, that, I don't think. You know, it's probably half a mil. It's very, very thin metal. But it works, but it's not uncomfortable. It's comfortable, but crappy metal with about 4 micro adjusts. Now, this is the Lige, which obviously has a much more solid, beefier bracelet, is leagues apart from it. It is far, far better than that, because this is a completely solid bracelet, completely solid end links, and a nice milled clasp with fold over and safety catch. There's no safety catch. Oh, sorry, there's a safety catch, but there's no push buttons on this one. They should have push buttons on this one. But this, the thickness of the swing arms, just look at the swing arms on that. You know, they're much thicker than on the Invicta. Now, that's folded up, that's why it looks thicker. Look, that is thin metal versus the thick metal on the Lige. So the bracelet on the Lige is clearly better, far superior in my honest opinion. I love this style of bracelet. Obviously Rolex designed this bracelet essentially. That's where they've copied the design off. So they get no marks for design obviously, but that is a beautiful comfy bracelet, even though it does have a little bit of QC issues in that the screws they've put in them are a little bit wackery, as I've mentioned in other videos. But the clear winner there, in my honest opinion, is the Lige. Having said that, one area where you could argue it is better is that Invicta have actually polished the centre links, which really should be done on this type of watch. The centre links should be polished, but they wasn't on the Lige. But as I'm going to get to in a second, the overall look of the watch is superior on this one, in my opinion, to this. The colour tone of this, of the gold they've used, isn't fully right, in my opinion. So Clasp better on this one, bracelet better. So let's talk about water resist. The water resist is a clear winner to Invicta, because Invicta have stated you do get 20 bar, which is 200 meter. You can't see it there, but it says 660 foot, 200 meter. Yeah, so you could argue that that is closer to being a true diver watch, because it's got the 200 meter, which means it is suitable for diving, you know, moderate diving, not depths of the bloody ocean stuff, but moderate diving, and the Invicta is okay. The Lige, on paper, only has 100 meter water resist, which is debatable whether you could say it's good enough for diving. Most places would say it's not, but I know people that have dived with 100 meter watches and had no issue. I don't know is the honest answer, because I'll never go diving with these watches. Snorkeling and swimming, absolutely, and both you can do no problem, but Invicta are the winner if you want to go diving. All QC issues, well, the overall feel, this is a cheap Invicta watch. It's not an expensive Invicta watch, and it's not an automatic. They do this model that's a tiny bit thicker, that in an automatic version. I couldn't pick it up because there was no stock, otherwise I would have bought that one. This is a quartz watch, so I'm not going to compare the movements. There's no point, they're just totally different movements. Obviously the quartz is far more accurate because it's a quartz. But so I'm not going to compare them. I've not got the automatic Invicta to compare it to. If I did, obviously I would be comparing them. This one is accurate to about 30 seconds a day, so it's very inaccurate. This one is accurate to about 30 seconds a month, so it's very accurate. So obviously, if you're not bothered about automatic, then this is a better watch, obviously. Now, overall QC issues, I would say both have, you know, they're not absolutely perfectly aligned. The bezels on both I don't think are fully correct. I think there is a bit of too much backplay on both. It's a tough one, that really. The gold is applied better in terms of the actual quality of the PVD, you know, the whatever you call it, the vapor deposit thing, whatever you call it. That is better on the Invicta. You know, all the links worked. I've had no issue really with the watch. So I'm going to give the QC issues, I'm going to give that better on the Invicta. However, overall quality and of the watch, I'm going to give that clearly to the Lige. I think it is a better watch, miles better. It fits better on the wrist. It's got a better weight. It's got a better bracelet. It's got a better bezel. It is a superior watch by a country mile, in my honest opinion. The only reason I would get the other one is if you definitely want to go diving. But if you wanted to go diving now, apparently, the vast majority of real divers, I'm not talking about dive watches, I'm talking about diving people, they wear dive computers, which are like they're like a mini tablet thing that you put on your wrist that have a big LED screen, and they use them. I'm not saying some divers don't use watches, but would you really buy a 40 quid or 50 quid Invicta watch to go diving? I don't think you would. In all other areas, really, I would say the Lige is the winner. I was hesitant about buying this Invicta because it was so cheap, but it's not a bad watch. They've not done the two-tone that well. It is a little bit unique. I'm not a fan of these very thin lugs. I'm not a fan of that style. I prefer the fatter case on this style. But it's not a bad watch for 45 quid. You can't actually buy it for that price anymore. I think they've gone up to about 90 quid now, the last one I saw on Amazon. I don't think it is worth it for that, I'll be honest with you. This one is a far superior watch, in my honest opinion. So, hope you enjoyed that review, well, that comparison. Please click the subscribe button. There will be some affiliate links if you want to pick them both up. I would make a tiny bit of commission at no extra cost to you. That's totally up to you. If not, have a great Christmas. Thanks a lot for subscribing. There's going to be loads more watches coming up. Cheers, it's Dave. Thank you.